Penguin Random House Audio presents Save Me by Kasten. Translated by Rachel Ward. Read for you by Marisa, Calin, and Will Watt. For Lucy. Playlist. Endlessness by Gezi. Daydreams by Nash, featuring Julius. Lightness by Death Cab for Cutie. A Lack of Colour by Death Cab for Cutie. Save Me by BTS. Slow Hands by Niall Horan. Cinder and Smoke by Iron and Wine. There's Nothing Holding Me Back by Shawn Mendes. Teenage Fever by Drake. Meet Me in the Hallway by Harry Styles. Chapter 1. Ruby. My life is divided into colours. Green, important. Turquoise, school. Pink, Maxton Hall Events Committee. Purple, family. Orange, diet and exercise. I've already completed purple, take Ember's photos. Green, buy new highlighters. And turquoise, ask Mrs. Wakefield for maths revision notes for today. Ticking something off on my to-do list is the best feeling in the world by miles. Sometimes, I even write down things I did ages ago, just so that I can cross them straight off again. Although I use a subtle grey for that, so that I don't feel like so much of a cheat. If you open my bullet journal, you'd see at a glance that my daily life consists mainly of green, turquoise, and pink. But just over a week ago, at the start of the new school year, I added a new colour. Gold. Oxford. The first task I noted down with my new pen was pick up reference from Mr. Sutton. I run my finger over the letters with their metallic shimmer. Just one more year. One last year at Maxton Hall. I almost can't believe that it's finally here. In a little more than a year's time, I might be sitting in a politics seminar right now, being taught by the world's cleverest people. It won't be long until I know whether my deepest wish will come true. And the mere thought makes everything within me tingle with excitement. Will I get in? Will I be able to study at Oxford? I'd be the first in my family to go to university. And I know that I'm lucky that my parents gave more than a weary smile the first time I announced, at the age of 7, that I was going to go to Oxford, and later that I wanted to study philosophy, politics, and economics. But even now, 10 years later, the only thing that's changed is that my goal is now within touching distance. It still feels like a dream that I've even got this far. I keep catching myself in the fear of suddenly waking up and realising that I'm still at my old school and not at Maxton Hall, one of England's most famous independent schools. I glance at the clock over the classroom's heavy wooden door. 3 minutes to go. We're meant to be working, but I finished the task last night, so all I have to do is sit here and wait for this lesson to finally come to an end. I jiggle my leg impatiently, earning myself a dig in the ribs. Ow, I mutter. I jab my friend Lynn back, but she's too quick and dodges out of the way. Her reflexes are incredible, presumably because she's been having fencing lessons since primary school, so she needs to be able to strike like a cobra. Stop fidgeting, she whispers back, not taking her eyes off her paper. You're making me edgy. That makes me pause. Lynn never gets nervous. Or if she does, you'd never tell, and she'd never admit it. But at that moment, I can actually spot a hint of worry in her eyes. Sorry, I can't help it. I run my fingers over the letters again. I've spent the last 2 years doing everything I can to not just keep up with the others, but to be better. To prove to everyone that I have a right to a place at Maxton Hall. And now that it's time to start filling in our university applications, the anxiety is almost killing me. I couldn't help it, even if I wanted to. I'm slightly reassured that Lynn seems to feel the same. Have the posters arrived, by the way? Lynn asks. She squints over at me, and a strand of her shoulder-length black hair falls into her face. She brushes it back impatiently. I shake my head. Not yet. She'll be here this afternoon. Okay. Shall we put them up tomorrow after maths, then? I point to the bright pink entry in my bullet journal, and Lynn nods in satisfaction. I glance back up at the clock. It's a real effort to stop my legs from jiggling again. Instead, I start to put my pens away as subtly as possible. All their nibs have to point in the same direction, so it takes me a while. I don't put the gold pen away, though. I slip it solemnly through the thin elastic band around my planner. I twist the lid so it's facing the front. Only now does it feel right. When the bell finally goes, Lynn jumps up out of her chair, faster than I'd have thought humanly possible. I raise my eyebrows at her. "Don't give me that look," she says, slipping her bag over her shoulder. "You started it." I don't reply, just put the rest of my stuff away with a grin. Lynn and I are the first to leave the room. We hurry across the west wing of Maxton Hall and take the next left. I spent my first weeks here getting constantly lost in this huge building, and ended up late to class more than once. I was so embarrassed about it, but the teachers kept on reassuring me that most new arrivals at Maxton Hall do the same. The school is like a castle. There are 5 floors, south, west, and east wings, and 3 other buildings for subjects like music and IT. There are countless corridors and shortcuts to get lost in, and you can't be certain that every staircase comes out on each floor, which is enough to drive you insane. However confusing it was at first, I know the buildings like the back of my hand now. I'm pretty sure I could even find my way to Mr. Sutton's office blindfolded. "I wish I'd got Sutton to write my reference too," Lynn grumbles as we walk down the corridor. There are Venetian masks adorning the wall to our right, the work of last year's A-level art students. As always, I'm amazed by all the playful detail in them. "Why's that?" I ask, making a mental note to ask the caretaker to put the masks away safely before the back-to-school party at the weekend. "Because he's liked us since we worked on the summer ball last year, and he knows how dedicated and hard-working we are. Plus, he's young and ambitious, and it's not that long since he was at Oxford himself. God, I could kick myself for not thinking of that." I stroke Lynn's arm. "Mrs. Marr was at Oxford too. Besides, I bet it looks better to get a recommendation from someone with more teaching experience than Mr. Sutton." She eyes me skeptically. "Are you regretting asking him?" I just shrug. At the end of last term, Mr. Sutton picked up on how desperate I am to get into Oxford, and said he'd be happy for me to pick his brains, ask him anything I wanted to know. He didn't study PPE, but he was still able to give me heaps of insider information, which I devoured greedily, and later noted down carefully in my journal. "No," I reply in the end. "I'm sure he knows what to put in." Once we reach the end of the corridor, Lynn and I are heading in opposite directions. We agree to speak later and say a quick goodbye. I glance at my watch, 1:25, and pick up the pace. I'm due to meet Mr. Sutton at 1:30, and I don't want to be late. I hurry past the tall Renaissance windows, through which the golden September light floods into the hallway, and squeeze past a group of students in the same royal blue uniform as me. Nobody takes any notice. That's how things are at Maxton Hall. Everyone wears the same uniform, blue and green tartan skirts for the girls, beige trousers for the boys, and tailor-made blazers for everyone. And yet there's no mistaking the fact that I don't really belong here. Everyone else comes to school with expensive designer bags, but my green backpack is so threadbare these days that I'm constantly expecting it to rip. I try not to let myself be intimidated or fazed by the fact that certain people here act like they own the entire school just because their families are rich. To them, I'm invisible, and I do everything I can to keep it that way. Just keep your head down. So far, so good. Eyes lowered, I push past the others and take one last turn to the right. Mr. Sutton's door is the third on the left. There's a heavy wooden bench between his and the neighbouring office, and I glance down at my watch again. 2 minutes to spare. I can't wait another second. Resolutely, I smooth out my skirt, straighten my blazer, and check that my tie is where it should be. Then I knock on the door. No answer. With a sigh, I sit down on the bench, looking both ways down the corridor. He might just be getting some lunch, or tea, or coffee. Which reminds me that I've drunk too much caffeine already today. I was antsy enough as it was, but Mum had made too much, and I didn't want to waste it. Now my hands tremble slightly.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?